Now, for some deep thoughts of Kamala Harris, here's what she recently said when talking about the children of the community.
About our children, I know for this group, we all believe that when we talk about the children of the community, they are the children of the community.
When we talk about the children of the community, they are the children of the community. And now for some more deep thoughts from Kamala Harris. A day without sunshine is very similar to night. If you don't remember history, you're destined to forget it. Live for tomorrow as if each day will be your last, unless you die today, in which case you were right. This has been another session of Deep Thoughts from Kamala Harris. Now, can we return to Georgia for a second? Because you know the controversy. The All-Star game was moved out of Georgia because of the racist voter suppression laws designed to suppress the minority vote. But guess what? Georgia shattered big-time voting records as a boatload of people who had never voted before voted. Watch this.
The reason that communities of color in Georgia don't have the same access to the polls is a lie. It's BS, as your reporting and Nick's entire body of reporting on the voter suppression laws will prove. So they took away access to the polls on the back of a big lie in service of Donald Trump.
They took access absolutely because of a lie, but also I would say that there also is racism in there, and the racism is a lie, right? Exactly. It's like the lie and racism, which is a lie, which is that these black people don't deserve.
What? Black people don't deserve
the access to citizenship in the way that other Americans do, that they haven't worked for it, that they don't understand.
They just shattered voting records. This is the NBC White House correspondent, Yamish Alcindor.
Sort of the weight of American democracy, and as a result, we need to make decisions for them. I think those two things are so intertwined in this country. We often, I think, get to talk about the political side of this, but the race side of this, and the fact that Jim Clyburn is saying in the country where we saw George Floyd die, it's gonna be 2 years this week that we saw this man murdered. In that same country, we're still sort of arguing about whether or not we want to teach our children and our students about whether or not sort of racism has continued to permeate all of these different structures, when we know graphically, we know statistically that is simply a fact.
Racism is going to permeate all of these structures. A black female barely lost the gubernatorial race in Georgia 4 years ago. A black man, Raphael Warnock, became a senator. A black man, Herschel Walker, is very likely going to win the Republican nomination for senator, which means two black guys will be competing against each other, one Republican, one Democrat, for a Senate seat in Georgia. And as I mentioned, Georgia shattered voting records, and still she is complaining.
You know, voter ID laws?
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad.
I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Would you go as far as say those laws are racist?
For sure.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely.
Tell us how.
Because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMV.
These type of people?
Or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs you do over the internet, Is that also would make it difficult for black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works.
A lot of people have smartphones, but you might not have data.
For most of the communities, they don't really
have knowledge of how it works.
know what is out there just because they're not aware or they're not informed.
I also think there's a repression of black voting with how if you're a convicted felon, you're not allowed to vote and everything. And when you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the African Americans.
Now I'm
A lot of blacks are convicted felons, and
here in East Harlem to ask black people their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID. Why would they think we don't have ID?
That's a lie. Why would?
That's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with, an ID.
Do you know any black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
Is it a weird thing to even say that?
Yes, it is.
What is this, some type of trick candy cameras?
I know, right?
That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those are legit IDs. I heard a lot also that black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV.
Really?
What does that say to you?
I know it's at on 25th Street.
Do you know where the DMV is around you?
It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Would you have a problem getting there if you had to get there?
No.
I know these sound like silly questions. You know how to get to the DMV?
Of course.
You know where it is?
Yes.
You can get there?
Uh-huh.
No problem.
No problem.
Just checking.
Okay.
And I also heard a lot that black people, especially poor black people, have no access to the internet, can't figure out how to use the internet.
That's just stupidity, honestly. Everybody has access to the internet. Even a little kid could figure out how to work the internet.
I had access to the internet for years.
You know how to use it properly, right?
Exactly. I do it at work. So, of course, I know how to use it. My kids know how to use it. They all have iPads, iPods, whatever.
Your phone.
so somehow, some way, all these people in Harlem have ID, or able to get ID. All these students, by the way, they were at UC Berkeley, and thanks to Ami Horowitz putting that together, all said, but they don't have access. Talk about the soft bigotry of low expectations.